Antiviruses? Like hacking tools? Don't forget, you have a lot more stuff to look at. Isn't Mario Paint classified as a game? Silas. Silas. Silas.
What?
What's with the hat?
What's with your hat?
Why are you all of a sudden wearing a hat?
Oh, this hat has magic in it. It has all my power. You ever play a Mario game? That's why.
Okay, go back to whatever you're talking about. I just wanted to know about the hat.
Thank you. Okay.
Are you done with the PS1 yet? Well, that sucks. It would have been nice to have a game store near you. Are you almost done? What about the consoles that you missed? Why did you take so long talking about these utilities?
Software. You know what software is. You're using it right now. You're on a web browser, some kind of... Software. You know what software is. You're using it right now. You're on a web browser of some kind, whether that be on the YouTube app or Chrome on PC. Because if you go to your Xbox One or your PS4... Because if you go to your Xbox One or your PS4s, you'd find fucking YouTube and Netflix on there. Let's not use that. Now here's something really funny about this. It's hard to find software released for consoles, because if you just Google PS1 utility software, you get modding tools. The Atari 2600 is interesting. I think... The Atari 2600 is interesting, I think. Look at this Pac-Man. It's fucked up. But anyway, the first utility cartridge on our list is the Starpath Supercharger for the Atari 2600. This is a cartridge that you would plug into the Atari, and it has like a little aux cable thing, so you can plug into a goddamn cassette player to play, I don't know, slightly more advanced games. Now, this isn't really a utility as more of a RAM expansion cartridge, kind of like what the Nintendo 64 got for Donkey Kong 64. But anyway, but way more, what is wrong with me? But way more inconvenient, especially for me, since there isn't an easy ROM set for these. I ended up downloading an entire fucking Atari collection. Especially for me, since... Let me just fucking redo this line. Now, this isn't really a utility as more of a RAM expansion cartridge. Kind of like what... Fuck me, man. Now, this isn't really a utility as more of a RAM expansion cartridge, kind of like what the Nintendo 64 got for Donkey Kong 64, but way more inconvenient, especially for me, since there isn't like an easy ROM set for these, so I ended up downloading this dude's entire fucking Atari collection. Anyway, let's try the first game, called The Official Frogger, which means this Frogger is a fucking fake. Yeah, that's definitely a better looking Frogger. It has music during gameplay, which is surprising. Really rare thing for Atari games. Yeah, it's definitely a better looking Frogger. It also has music during gameplay, which is surprisingly really rare for Atari games. Like, with the original Frogger, it would just play a song and then you would have to wait through that before you can actually start playing. While this one, it plays Yankee Doodle while riding on a fucking log. Alright, next up, Rabbit Transit. Wikipedia has nothing to say about this game, so hopefully I might. Overall, this game seems really simple. You're a rabbit hopping around and shit. I don't really like the controls, they're kind of confusing, but you're just going down to eat flowers. There's also a turtle down here. I wonder what happens if you touch that turtle. And after all of that, your bunny has sex and gets babies. And then you do it all again. Okay. Anyway, you need a keyboard to use it. I did not fucking know the Atari had keyboards. And, I mean, look at this fucking keyboard. This thing has more in common with a damn typewriter. Also has basic programming, and actually very similar to the Atari. The Famicom also has a peripheral to play cassettes. Now for stuff I can actually show you, here's the NES Touch. Now for stuff I can actually show you, here's the NES test cartridge. That was fun, right? That was fun, right? I think the most notable thing is how I 100%ed the achievements on a fucking test cartridge. There's also another one for just a controller. And I guess the Super Nintendo... And I guess for the Super Nintendo, the closest would probably be Mario Paint. Okay, I need to delay the voice. Mario Paint is actually probably the closest one to a game. And of course, there's another test program to see if your Super Nintendo works properly. There's also this unreleased, like, fucking taxpayer software for the SNES. I don't exactly remember what it was, because my memory of this cartridge is from a Chadtronic reaction video. There's also this... There's also the set of view. Oh. There's also the Satellaview, which could kind of count. There's also the Satellaview, which could kind of count. Now, the Satellaview isn't really on topic with what we're talking about, because a lot of it is actual fucking video games when they fucking work. Yeah, that BS does stand for something. It stands for bullshit. Like this BS Mario Collection, which is supposed to just be Mario Brothers 3. You had me wait 5 minutes. I had to wait 5 minutes. Super Mario Brothers 3. You had to wait 5 minutes, and then the fucking counter would go back to 2 minutes. I restarted. It waited 1 more minute. Nothing happened. And then while I was writing this fucking script, the game started. And then I remembered that I hate Mario 3, especially the Super Nintendo version. But all that just to play like fucking 3 levels. It's literally easier for me to set up my actual Super Nintendo, put in Mario All-Stars, and play Mario 3 that way. Sorry, I got off topic. It's just this thing is fucking stupid. How does this fall under utility software? I guess if you put the cartridge in by itself, it's like a little walk-around thing, but that's about it. Of course, Sega had something kind of similar with Sega Channel. And speaking of the Sega Genesis, it has its own paint program, which is the end of that story. I'll get to that when I play every Sonic game. There's also the Miracle Piano, which I completely forgot about during the NES section, which is just a fucking piano. I couldn't even imagine trying to emulate something like this. Now, the Nintendo 64, or at least the 64DD... Oh my god, this is fucking stupid. I hate my writing style. Now, the Nintendo 64, or at least the 64DD, no Nintendo, has the Mario Artist series of games, which is Mario Paint if it was a lot more fucking cooler, and if you could make models. Genuinely, these are awesome to fuck around with. And you can also have multiplayer for a fucking art program, which only plays is showed off. Now, the PlayStation had a lot, but I think one of the most interesting ones is the RPG Maker. Now, the PlayStation had a lot, but I think one of the most interesting ones is the RPG makers that came out. I'm not joking. You could make RPGs on PlayStation. And this trend never died out, by the way. RPG Maker released on PlayStation 1, 2 of them released on PlayStation 2. I'm not counting the Japanese RPG makers, by the way, for PlayStation. The PS3 and PS Vita just straight up skipped out on it. The PS4 and Switch got RPG Maker MV, which you definitely know because of a little game called fucking Amori was made using it. But not only that, the Coffin of Andy and Lele was also made in MV. And also, for some reason, Google says it was made in RPG Maker 2003. That's straight up a lie. If you go into the files, you can literally find evidence that Coffin of Andy and Lele was made using MV. Now, I'm just going to include all the RPG makers here because there's so goddamn many of them. And of course, with that, I'm skipping some of them. Like, obviously, I can't do the Switch or PS4 RPG maker. And my other excuse is that I'm too fucking lazy to download the ROMs for the Super Nintendo and 3DS RPG makers. But with that, I also do want to say there was a Game Boy RPG maker. That is a fucking crazy concept to me. Again, I'm sorry I can't talk about every RPG maker. Like RPG Maker with PS5. This fucking sucks. When you have an analog controller plugged in, nothing works. So you have to make sure you're using the digital PS1 controller, which is awesome. Second, I can't figure out how to quit out of the fucking game. I couldn't figure out how to save either. And the shitty test game that I made, I couldn't figure out how to fucking exit it. And third, this is probably the worst way to make graphics for any game. Anyway, the shitty little test game that I made... The shitty little test game that I did make features everyone's favorite joke, Coca-Cola and an 8-ball. The 8-ball is female. There's also RPG Maker on DS. I'm not even going to try. And then there's also the PS2 RPG Makers. First up, RPG Maker 2. The shirt color of the chef. I think I already said that. I don't know. And RPG Maker 3. I'm in the exact same boat because for some reason this... And RPG Maker 3. I'm in the exact same boat. For some reason, this was straight up next to impossible to translate onto a fucking console back then. That. Which is like RPG Maker, but for shoot 'em up games. AKA, you bet someone probably put Toho Project on this bitch. Anyway, this is just way better than that shitty RPG Maker for PlayStation. I don't know. It's just the menus are not as complicated for me. Of course, I had a handful of hiccups, like making the player sprite a little too big, so I had to scale it back. But I mean, I actually put time and effort into... I actually put time and effort into my sprites in this one. Oh my god. And I mean, I actually put time and effort into my sprites in this one, and it was fun to learn. My only problem is that saving takes like 3 fucking years, but if you're on emulator, you can just speed that shit up. Some of the buttons don't explain what they... Some of the buttons don't explain what they do, but you can easily learn by fucking around. And the fucking intro had an image of a mouse, but I couldn't get the mouse input to work, so this game fucking lied to me. And to close off the PS1 section, there is Net Eurosi, which is a PlayStation equivalent of the Xbox 360 indie game store. Pretty much a lot of demo discs would just come with these games. Cat Icarus actually has a really good video about a bunch of Net Eurosi games, but for me, it's too much to get into right now. Maybe some other episode I'll look at it. God damn it. Not quite. The PS1 let you make music. Yeah, the MTV music generator. Now, sadly, I don't have a single goddamn clue on how to make music, so maybe this program might help me. I think this is the best music I have ever made my entire life. That isn't fucking Windows XP song. That isn't... I think this is the best music I've ever made in my entire life. That isn't that fucking Windows XP song bullshit that I made in like 2020, which, in case you haven't heard it, I'll play it as the background music. As I have no way of hooking up my Dreamcast to the internet, and have no plans on trying to get that all sorted out. These are really useless to me. I don't know why I got both of these discs. It's... I don't know why I got both of these discs. I don't know why I got both of these discs. And actually, fun fact, Web Browser 2 was the first ever time I actually came across a Dreamcast game in a thrift store. I mean, I can show you what happens when I pop these into my console, though. I mean, I don't really know what else you were expecting to see. It's nice that I can... I mean, I don't really know... What? I am so bad at reading. I mean, I don't really know what you were expecting me to say. It's nice that I can see how the fucking cursor used to move. This webpage on the 2.0 version has a fucking black void underneath it. There was also a bunch of other versions of these around the world, like the Dream Passports, which had like 4 different versions in Japan. Also, Sega tried a handful of times to get karaoke working. Like, they had one for the Mega CD, which is the European Sega CD, and the Dreamcast in Japan. I don't think we ever got these. I don't think we ever got these goddamn karaoke systems, which is kind of sad, but I mean, it's fucking karaoke. Which first up being this knockoff Game Boy player that I have footage of. This goddamn thing is kind of neat, huh? It comes with a bunch of Game Boy Advance cheats. It also doesn't play original Game Boy games. Just get a regular Game Boy player at that point. Game Sharks and Action Replays. Why did I not talk about these things? Because I can't fucking use them. The Game Shark for PS2 requires a memory card, so that's already out of the picture. And the GameCube cheat devices, I could just boot up Dolphin and play with cheats. And since we're already on this topic of the PS2, it also had a lot of utility discs. Okay, there's a delay. But luckily, I can burn these onto a disc. But unluckily, I can't do anything with these. Even PlayStation 2 Linux, because of course the PlayStation 2 had Linux, and it's one of the more expensive items for the fucking console. Now, the background footage is Michael MJD, because I can't use it. Why? Do you want to know how outdated VGA is? This is my old Windows 8 machine. I have probably had that computer since at least 2014, definitely before Windows 10 became a thing. This had VGA. I no longer have this computer, which sucks. Also, this Little Big Planet 3 video, that TV had VGA input. There is also, I shit you not, an Initial D typing trainer. What in the fuck? It kind of reminds me of Mario Teaches Typing, but with anime. Or that stupid fucking Bluetooth keyboard shit that came with a Pokemon DS game. Now, how about the original Xbox? Now, the PSP had very little stuff, but still a few things, like Beaterator, which was actually made by Rockstar, which is interesting, and this Japan-only video editing software for the PSP. Now, this next topic easily falls under the category of UMD movies. Of course, these are more of a video format than a utility, but I mean, that's the most that I got. A lot of it... What the fuck? Now, this next topic easily falls under this category... Oh my god. Now, this next topic easily falls under the category... the UMD movies. Of course, these are more of a video format than a utility, but I mean, that's the most I got. A lot of it was digital only, but the problem with the digital only utilities is that they're not as fun to talk about, or it's just fucking Skype for PSP. Like the PlayStation 3 and the Play Beyond Blu-ray, which barely counts, as I'm pretty sure this works in any... Like the PlayStation 3 and the Play Beyond Blu-ray, which barely counts, as I'm pretty sure this works in any Blu-ray player. But you also had the PlayStation 3 and Wii Netflix discs, which I've already talked about in the past, but the video sucks, so let me tell you the story on why these discs even exist in the first place. And actually, fun fact, there's a really rare Brazilian PlayStation 2 version of the disc, because Brazil is like 50 years back. Did you know the Sega Master System is still getting fucking made over there? Yeah, that's about it. Of course, neither one works because you could just download the better Netflix that's on those storefronts, at least for that time period. I don't think those Netflix work either. I don't think those Netflix work either anymore. I don't think those Netflix work either anymore. Now, for the PlayStation 2 Netflix, I'm pretty sure that bitch never worked in the first place. The 360 doesn't have much. I mean, the 360 doesn't have much. I mean, do the 360 demo discs count? They have videos. Or what about Halo Waypoint, which you can connect to this fucking arcade machine? And I have gameplay footage of me playing this arcade machine. Or even the Halo 3 Essentials discs, which came with this collector's edition. Most common with Bethesda games, these second discs usually come with DLC, or in Fables 2's case, most common with Bethesda games, these second discs usually come with DLC, or in Fables 2's case, concept art. And that is all they are. And that's all they are. Just select the DLC you want and install them. We also have Xbox Live Labs, aka sit there and do fucking nothing. It has achievements, by the way. And one of the achievements is to use that app for a total of 6 hours. Luckily, it's not all at once, but still, that's a ridiculous amount of time. And I'm pretty sure oh my god, dude, why am I so bad at reading this? I wrote it. We also have Xbox Live Labs, aka sit there and do fucking nothing. It has achievements, by the way. One of the achievements is to use that app for a total of 6 hours. Luckily, it's not all at once, but still, that's a ridiculous amount of time. And I'm pretty sure everyone who got that achievement just left their Xbox running for 6 hours. Anyway, for the Wii, you have stuff like Game Sound Station, which has been shut down, and has this cute little anime character by the name of Nanashi. I love her so much that I ripped her sprites and reconstructed her. Anyway, apparently what this was like the Japanese equivalent to Spotify. Like, they had soundtracks, drama, and vocal CDs related to video games, and if you paid, you could listen to over 1,000 songs. There's also Happy Holidays Christmas and Happy Holidays Halloween. Pretty much the deal with these, they're just postcards. You just make postcards with these. The internet channels for the Wii and DS, you can go online, but these barely fucking worked. But surprisingly, to this day, the Wii one still works. I don't know about the DS one or the DSi one. And there's also a handful of, like, these really weird Wii shit, like Princess I, or AI, which apparently is just, like, a fucking digital manga that you could have bought. The Today and Tomorrow channel, which didn't even release here, and apparently is just like a horoscope thing. I don't know. There's also Wii Fit Body Check, which would be like you send information to your doctor or something. What the fuck? And finally, we have this Raku. Jesus fucking Christ, that is a long ass name. Especially since this is just a no smoking program. And by program, I mean a visual novel. Yeah, almost like my no smoking coach for the DS, which is a way more creative way to not stop smoking and more just piss me the fuck off. There. And speaking of the DS, And speaking of the DS, it had like 14 different MP3 players, and I think they all used the GBA slot. And of course, how could you forget the fan favorites? Easy Piano, which is just straight up a fucking like 10 key piano, and FL Studio. Oh, I'm sorry. I meant Korg DS10. Now, the next generation doesn't have anything, or, well, they do. They're just not interesting enough to actually talk about. Like, they don't have. They're just not interesting to actually talk about. That's the Wii U, Xbox One, and PS4 and beyond. There isn't really much to talk about when it comes to these consoles unless you're talking about the Switch. There was also the 3DS, which for $100 got you PDI check. And as you can tell, definitely wasn't supposed to be sold on the eShop. I'm just going to save this game for a different day. The Switch also has quite a handful of this type of stuff, like Nintendo Labo or Game Builder Garage. Yeah, those fall under that. And if we're counting those, I guess Dreams for PS4 would also count. And fuck it, why not throw the Switch 2 Welcome Tour in there as well? The original Game Boy had stuff like the Game Boy Camera. The original Game Boy had stuff like the Game Boy Camera, and I guess the Super Game Boy, even though that's more of a Super Nintendo thing. I'll also still count. I'll still count it as Game Boy utility. Okay, hold on. Let me fucking redo this. The original Game Boy had stuff like the Game Boy Camera, and I guess the Super Game Boy, even though that's more of a Super Nintendo thing, I'll still count it as a Game Boy utility. There's also the Pocket Sonar for fishing, and the Mobile Trainer, which was used for, like, checking emails and shit. The Game Boy Advance had the fucking e-reader, and that is the end of that sentence. I mean, the Xbox One also has whatever the fuck's going on here. And these have unobtainable achievements, except for one of them. And that one with obtainable achievements has an unattainable achievement, and it's fucking Stewie Griffin from Family Guy. I mean, do these things even fucking count? It's clearly someone just, like, testing out a bunch of bullshit. I love finding out about random junk, and I like collecting that random junk. Like, did I really need both Dreamcast web browsers or fucking Microsoft Office for Mac? No. But I still wanted them because I think they're interesting. Like, if I could have a giant collection of N-Gage and fucking Hyperscan or RCA Studio 2 games, I would love that. And I think these random utilities fit that bill perfectly.